Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Kyle with Harvest 27 Films and Photography, and welcome to another great tutorial with After Effects. What we're going to be doing today is some motion tracking, some 3D work using Video Copilot's amazing plugin Element, and going to be having a good old time. Going to be great. It's going to be good. It's going to be good and great. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We have this scene here. We have this aerial shot, which I got for free online, which I will post a description of a place to get it in the description bar. And then what we have is these particles or flying rocks forming into this organic-looking sphere in the middle of the air. And the reason I wanted to do this instead of like a jet flying in and doing a whole bunch of things is that what I want to do is I want to show you guys how to take 3D elements, whether it be from a 3D program like 3ds Max or something like that, and try to make it look, or using Video Copilot's Element, and try to make it look like it fits in a natural scene. I think that'd be pretty cool because this is something that obviously doesn't exist in real life, and I think it's cool to take something that no one's seen before and try to make it look like it belongs in the environment or works. So that's what we're doing. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. If not, continue watching and maybe you'll figure it out. So let's see what all we have here. We've got the background plate, which is Control-Shift-H to get rid of that light bulb. We have this background plate, and it's just an aerial shot over this canyon, which seems like a good place to get stranded. Then we have the tracked 3D camera. Then we have Element, which also has lens blur on it to make it look like it blends in, and I'll go over that in just a moment. So let's turn that on, and that's it. That's animating to using the animation engine to that sphere. And then we also have a light, which is just a parallel light to kind of make it look like the sun. Then we have an ambient light to give it a little bit more light detail to the areas. Then we have an adjustment layer for color correction, and then we have a vignette, and that's our entire scene. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to shift and delete all of that, and then get rid of the track data. So what I want to do is I'm going to jump into full resolution, and we're just going to track this footage. And we could do this a variety of different ways. We could go in here and create a null object, and track the position and scale and the rotation using the tracking points. Or if you're in After Effects CS6, which I'm in, you can actually use the built-in camera tracker, which is really great. So that's what we're going to do for today. So I'm just going to go to our tracker here and click Track Camera. And what it's going to do is it's going to analyze in the background tracking data for our scene, similar to the Foundry's camera tracker or Buju or PF Track or PFO, and it's pretty nice. One thing I really like about it is I can actually create a new composition, and I can be working in it and doing things while that is analyzing the background. Something that's really great about this that I thoroughly enjoy, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to go over this a little bit just to show you what it has. So we have a shot type, fixed angle view, or variable zoom, or we can specify the angle of view. I don't know what lens they used, but it is a fixed angle of view because it's not zooming in and out. If it was zooming in and out, we use variable zoom. Show track points, 3D solved. Obviously, we could render the track points, so it's going to show us all the points once they're rendered. Track point size, you can just leave this as it is. The advanced, the solve method, we could auto detect typical, mostly flat scene, or tripod pan. The typical is going to be similar to this shot here. We just have some motion going forward. Mostly flat scene would be like a plane, maybe like a very plain hallway or something like that. And then we also have a tripod pan, which is like a nodal pan, where the tripod's in one spot and it's just going back and forth. We can also do a detailed analysis. We don't really need to do that here, but we could, and we can get rid of this warning banner if we wanted to. But I like it. I mean, look at that. It tells me exactly what it's doing. And this, I'll tell you about this whenever we get back to the tutorial. So I'll see you in about 37 seconds, and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got about 10 seconds left. It feels like New Year's, except it's March 26th when I'm recording this. So now it's going to solve for the camera. So it's going to take all these tracking points and try to replicate the camera that the scene made. So it's going to do that. And then now we have all of these dots. And all of these dots represent a point in 3D space. And what we can do is we can click on one of these and right click, and we can create a null camera from that one of these spots. But actually what I just want to do is I just want to create a camera right off, because you know, I've done this before and I know it works, so that's what I'm going to do. But what we could have done, we could have like picked out some of these things and deleted them, the ones that didn't match. But you see the average error here is 0.64. That's pretty low. That's where we want to keep it. Anything over, like, you know, once you get to like 1.6, 1.5, you start getting too high, and you're going to want to go in here and adjust your tracking data. But that's pretty good. So what did that just do? Well, it created a camera here, obviously, and what we can do is we can we can create a text layer like this and make it 3D. And what it's going to do is going to put it in 3D space. So let me go down to half resolution just so it goes a little bit faster. So now we have this text in 3D space, and we can actually fly past. Oh, almost fly past it. Oh, it's so close. And what we can do is we can reposition this to different parts of our scene. Like it's over there above that canyon, and it goes out of the frame. We can move it in Z space. Let's make it, you know, further down there. Maybe scale it up. You know, get creative. But we're going to go a step further and add in some elements. But that's the idea behind camera tracking. You want to have a scene. Whenever you're doing camera tracking like this, is pretty smooth. You want to make sure that your scene is as smooth as possible, and you don't have a lot of you know, shakiness. Also, what you want to do, what you're going to want to do is shoot at you know, as high as an aperture as possible, just so that you can get as much in the background and focus as possible. And that's just going to give the camera tracker more data. Also, if you have something in the foreground to differentiate between the foreground and the background, that's going to make things a lot easier as well. So the more information you have in the foreground, the middle, and the background, the better your track is going to be. And that's why I picked this shot, just because it's got all the good ingredients to make this scene look good and make it look like I know what I'm doing, which obviously I don't. So let's create a new layer, layer new solid, and press OK, and let's just press return and call it element. We can also press Control Y or Command Y if you're on a Mac to do the same thing. And we're going to do effect, come on, effect video copilot element. So we don't have anything in here yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our scene setup, and this is really the heart of element. So we have all these options here. I'm going to go into the starter pack, and these are all packs that you can, you know, download, you can purchase from Video Copilot. I do highly recommend doing that. So we're going to ball fracture here. So we have this ball here that actually has, you know, it's fractured so that, you know, we could separate it in post. So I'm going to go into our presets here. This is another pro shaders that you can purchase in Video Copilot. And I'm just going to create, I'm just going to pick out one of these stones here that I think matches pretty well to our scene. Not that one. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to press OK. So now we have this stone floating in the middle of the air. And, you know, that looks okay, but it's not perfect. Actually looks horrible. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to adjust this, and we're going to kind of create that ring that I created last time. So I'm going to group 1, because that's the group that it's in, to the particle replicator. I'm going to bring the particle count to about 8. That's not, no, I pressed the wrong button. Yep, particle count to about 8. That's not done anything. But we change this to a sphere. You can see, if we change this to a ring, you can see that it's kind of done a little bit more. And what we can do is scale the shape up just a touch, and then maybe go into the particle look and bring the size down, and maybe bring up the size random, create a size back up. So now we have these particles in a ring. And what I want to do is I want to go into the rotation, and I actually want to bring them down just a little bit, just so it looks slightly different. And maybe not that much, just so it shows a little bit of parallaxing there. There we go. And what I want to do is I want these to rotate this way very slowly as we come towards it. So what we can do is we can just do a quick expression. Alt click on the Y and do time. Time is about 20. So that's going to take them, and they're going to rotate just like that as we fly over. So already we're getting something kind of interesting. But what I want to do is, if you look closely here, you can see these are in front of the trees, and that it's not actually realistic. And what we could do to fix that is we could duplicate this layer, put on top, and then mask out the trees to make it look behind it, go behind it. I'm not going to do that because I'm feeling a little bit lazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the particle replicator and just move them over so we don't have to do that. And I just moved them over so that they're out there now. And that works for me. So now what we want to do is we want to make these look like they're particles instead of just spheres floating in midair. So let's go to the particle look, down to multi-object, and click enable. And since this was a fractured object, we can do this. And so now what we can do is we can displace the objects on the different axes. So now what we have is the object separating, which looks really nice. It looks kind of cool and intricate. And we can scatter them a little bit. We can displace them on the X, Y, and Z, and maybe randomly displace them. And that's pretty nice. And then what we can do is we can go to the rotation random so that each piece is randomly rotated. So what I'm going to do is I want them to randomly rotate over time. So I'm going to press time times 100. So as time goes by, they're going to move 100 pixels over time, according to the value that's on here. So it's very slight, but it's one of those things that, you know, just adds to the entire scene. And then I actually want to bring the size random up, and maybe the size down just a touch of the particles. So already that's looking pretty good. It looks like these particles maybe came off this sheer cliff, and it's looking pretty nice. Looking good, looking great. But now what we want to do is we want to make it so that it actually matches the blurriness of the scene. So what we can do is we go to Effect, Blur, Camera, Lens Blur. That's way too much. But I know that 2.5 maybe would work. So that kind of matches a little bit better with the scene, and it just makes it look like they belong a little bit better. So let's go ahead and create a couple lights to match our scene as well. So we can do layer, new light, and we're going to create a parallel light and make it about 80% intensity and kind of a little bit brighter. So now we have a parallel light, and we can just move this over here so that it kind of matches the way the sun is coming into the valley here. That looks pretty good. And then we can do a layered new ambient light, and then bring that down to about 20% and make it a little bit warmer. That might be too warm. I'm just pressing AA on the keyboard. Make that a little bit less bright. And then maybe make this a little bit less bright as well. And bring down the intensity of this. Just kind of fiddle with it until it matches the scene. So I think that's pretty good. Just gonna push this back, move it over a bit, bring the intensity up just a touch. So that looks pretty good. It's looking interesting to say the least, but at least we're getting somewhere. And now what we want to do is I'm going back into Element and maybe make some ambient occlusion. So that's going to create some fake shadows in our scene. So we go to Render Settings, Ambient Occlusion, and just press Enable. And then maybe bring the intensity up just a touch. And that's going to create shadows within each of the element particles. And then also what we want to do is, since there's a little bit of fog in the environment, let's create some fog. So enable that, and maybe pick kind of like a color down here, and then bring the start distance up just a touch. Maybe bring it down some more. Oops. Just leave that at 0. So now we've got this fog back here. I just brought the opacity up just a touch. So that makes it look like it belongs in our scene just a little bit better. And actually, when I made this tutorial the first time, I didn't use this texture, so I'm just trying to fiddle with it to make it look like it belongs a little bit better. So let's go back into our scene setup, and let's make our second ball fracture, and make it be on group 2. And let's see if I remember what texture I used for this. This plastic texture here is what I used last time, and that looks pretty good. So we'll press OK, and now it's going to create a random ball in the middle of our scene. If we go to group 2, the particle replicator, what we're going to want to do is just move this so that it's more or less in the center of our ring here. And I think that pretty much is. And now I'm going to go into our animation engine and turn that on. And then we can keyframe the animation. So right now it's just going in there just like that. And what I actually want to do right now, it's going in from left to right. I don't really want that. I want it to be radial so that it comes in a different way. And then I want to bring the smoothness down to about 20 and the randomness up to about 80. And I think that'll work. Let's keyframe, actually. Let's keyframe the animation to start and end about right there. So now we have this particle floating, and the pieces randomly go into it and creates it right there. And it looks pretty good. So another thing we want to do is we want to add in some motion blur. So we can just do that by turning motion blur on for the composition, which I already have, and then turning it on for our element layer. So now, as these pieces fly in there, we've got some motion blur that kind of adds to that. Alright, so I think that's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and add some color correction. What I'm doing is layer, new adjustment layer, and do effect, color correction, curves, maybe bring up the blacks just a touch, and then give it a little bit of a contrast curve. And also another thing I like doing is I like going to effect, color correction, tint, and tint the black channel to like a dark blue, and the white channel to an orangish, like a light orange color, and then lowering the amount to tint. And that just makes things look, maybe not that, let's bring it a little bit brighter. I think it gives a different look. I like the way that it looks, and it's just a little bit more interesting. The sky is a little bit darker, so I just like it. And let's see, another thing we can do with the lens blur, as it gets closer to the camera, we could bring the lens blur up a little bit, but I think I'm going to leave it as it is. Let's go ahead and create a new solid, make this black, and this is going to be a vignette. We'll double click on the elliptical mask tool, set to subtract, press MM on the keyboard, and feather it out, and then bring the expansion up. and maybe not feather it as much. Just holding Shift on the keyboard to bring it in and out, and then we can press F4 and set the transfer mode to classic color burn, and then bring down the opacity. So there we go. There's our entire scene. I think that looks pretty good, and it's not a whole lot to it. I mean, there's just a couple of assets there that are going in, and you know, if you ask me, I'd say it kind of looks like it belongs in the scene. I think it looks pretty good. You know, I would be kind of freaked out if I was a pilot and I saw that. I would probably see that and then just you know, shoot way over, probably into the side of the mountain or something crazy like that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't, just you can keep that to yourself. I'm just kidding. You can let me know. But hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked it, just like and favorite and comment. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Once again, I'm Kyle with Harvest 27 Films at www.harvest27films.com. Thank you, and have a great day.